Welcome to the Copper Lodge. Andy, I appreciate you joining us today, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so let's just go around and say hi. I do have a few announcements for everyone, some good announcements, but there are some cool stuff that's happening on with Copper Johns. And so right now we have Brew City. What's up, Brew? Appreciate you coming. What's up, B? Do you know all these guys, Andy?
E-Rock. Yeah, I know E-Rock.
Everyone knows.
Never gets around.
What's up, Joshua? Thanks for coming.
See that name a lot, too.
You do. And Aldemir? That guy's look at his beard, man. That's good.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Got that wisdom coming out, too. I see that.
Right? Yeah, look at that. Then we have Nick, who is a welcome in this community. He's been a great person to have. He doesn't have a beard, but he loves the community, and he loves using all the product, just, you know. Then we have Billy. Hi, Billy. How you doing, man? Billy's out of Arizona, and he comes to Utah. He just had a new grandchild. His daughter just had a grandbaby up here, so I've yet to meet him. And then we have Casey. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining for a second. Hey, Corey. Now look at that. I can't tell if he has a shirt off or his shirt's brown. Hey, Troy. How you doing? I got to meet Troy last week. We got to hang out quite a bit, and it was really fun to get to know him. Hey, Joey. Hey, I appreciate that, man.
There you go. I'll hook him.
Yeah. Joey sent some pictures in of him catching some bass. It's been nice. Same with Michael. Michael's actually won the giveaway that I do on a weekly basis with his pictures.
Funny fact, the Florida Game and Wildlife Commission is actually looking to bar Joey Hookham from fishing anymore. They found that his presence was an unfair advantage, and he was getting out on the boat, and the fish were just surrendering.
Right? He does catch some good fish.
Yeah.
And then we got Jason. How you doing, Jason? Appreciate you coming. And then we have Jason Esser. I'm going to announce that we've been working together a little bit, and I'll show everyone what we're talking about. Hey, Nicholas. And then Mr. Cheesehead. How you doing? Yeah, great audio being outdoors, right? And then
Yes, sir. Doing good, brother. Doing good.
Hey, Josh. All right, so here we go. So there's a couple of things. So Jason Esser and I, he has been working with me, and I brought in 20 of each of the soap dishes for Copper John soap, and then this will actually in a beer display, which will hold our oil, our gray butter, and our regular butter, along with our solid cologne. So those are on the site right now on active under accessories. So I appreciate Jason doing that for me. And then the second thing that we're talking about is Casey and a bunch of gentlemen have created a Facebook group page that we're going to have lives. We're going to have giveaways. We're going to have just fun, positive conversations. So everyone feel free to go join that. It's just Copper Johns, and it has one of the logos of the fishing pole and the hook, and the razor. And then the last thing before we start talking to Andy is we now are doing something right now for Columbus Day is our BOGO. If you use Oiled Up 21 at checkout, you can get one oil for free. If you buy one oil, get one oil for free. So I think that's something that we want to do special for this, and hope you guys enjoy that and you take advantage of that. All right. I've never done this before, Andy. I've told you this before. I'm going to read your bio because you have lots of experience. You have lots of miles, and not saying that you're old, just saying that you are very, very, you have a lot of knowledge. And so this is Andy's bio. Born in South Georgia, moved from St. Louis at age 5, returned back to South Georgia to finish off high school. Spent 20s as a nomad, making every single bad choice I was presented with: drugs, bankruptcy, numerous failed relationships. Got cleaned up, managed to earn a bachelor's in education at 30, a master's at 34, all but dissertation in my late 30s. Spent the last 20 years as a counselor, helping people with addiction issues, marital issues, but specializing in severe mental health issues such as psychosis and mood issues. 4 dogs, 2 cats, spent 10 years assisting companies alpha and beta test products. Then I discovered the beard care industry, currently learning the chemistry of fragrance and scent building, working with beard companies to both test and develop new lines and scents. One of the original grumpy old men. The reason why I did that is because he and I have talked a lot about mental issues. We've talked about beard issues. He's helped me out a lot. And so I really wanted him to come on and just have a good conversation. And so you guys feel free to ask any questions that you have. If by some odd coincidence I don't see your question, please just keep asking until I see it. So first question right here. Your bio talks about your early life and the mistakes you made. How have those mistakes made you the person you are now?
Made me a lot more, believe it or not, humble. I think all of us, all men, when we go from, I don't know, depends on the age, but from somewhere between 12 and 18, we begin to think we know everything. And I spent a number of years quite sure that I was the smartest person in the room. And I went out and made every single mistake that I could possibly make. And I had to come to grips with the fact that it was my figuring, it was my logic, my superior intellect that got me into that mess. And so it made me a lot more interested in listening to what people had to say, not necessarily accepting everything I hear, but a lot more willing to listen and getting multiple opinions, different perspectives. And I really began to appreciate the value of diversity and the people that you listen to. If you listen to people that are all in the same bubble, you're going to get pretty much the same information, which is great, for that bubble. But if the more you can expand your view on whatever topic, the more informed you're going to be, the more secure you're going to be in the decisions that you make. I think for me, that was probably the biggest thing. And learning that it's okay to say, I don't know.
This is true. Previously, you just said that, learning from different areas of life and stuff like that. So when I was teaching sociology in college and we were talking about social problems and all that kind of stuff, you learn a lot about empathy, and just because you do business this way doesn't mean they have to do business that way. If you're all social, doesn't mean that they're social. And what I learned though is if you go to GM and you go to the board of directors, they have their whole board. There's one person, and that's the GM guy. Everyone else comes from different industries. So you have Dell. You had Sarah Lee, who makes bread and pastries. You had all these different types of successful businessmen that had nothing to do with cars. And I think that has a lot to do with what you're saying is you're going to learn a lot more if you don't talk and you just listen. And I think that is actually, that takes a lot of time to understand that.
After a while, you develop a flat spot on your forehead from banging against the wall, and you realize that you're not as pretty as you were when you were younger. And it's okay, I'm going to listen instead of banging my head against the wall. Maybe you can go around some walls. You don't have to go through all walls.
Yeah. And just me selling a little bit of my company to Casey Bushy Beard, I've learned a lot from him and some business tactics and stuff like that I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Whoa, why didn't I think of that? And we come from different areas of life and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely humbling, but at the same time, the only way to grow and become better is listening to people like that. So question for you, since you are in counseling and you deal with mental issues, what is mental health and what does that mean?
All right. So one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about what I do is they think that everyone that I work with has to be just falling apart a mess. And the reality is most of the people that I work with have problems, but everyone has problems.
Yeah.
So if we're gonna get technical about it, if we're gonna get clinical about it, every single mental health condition has to rise to a certain point and impact multiple areas of a person's life in order for them to have a diagnosis. Just general numbers out there, about 60% of the entire population of the world at some point in their life would meet the criteria for having some sort of anxiety disorder.
Wow.
About 80% of the population of the world would meet the criteria to have a major depressive disorder. That doesn't mean they stay there.
Yeah.
It just means that they go through life and they hit a hard spot. So even though I just by nature of my personality and experience in the field, I do tend to work with some of the more challenging people.
Mm-hmm.
They're not challenging because they're dangerous. They're not challenging because they're the people that when you ride down the street, that they're out there in a corner talking to themselves or whatever. They're challenging because they've had some very bad things happen to them, and they're having a hard time coping with it.
No, that makes sense.
So, but most of the people that I work with could be sitting right next to you in a movie theater or right next to you at a grocery store, and you would have no idea.
So from my understanding, you said 80% of the population at some point has depression that would fit that criteria. Mm-hmm. So is that something that is on a daily, like one day they're not depressed, the next day they are? Is it that type of thing, or is it a constant, like, I'm depressed for a week and that's how it works?
Major depression is characterized by having a largely depressed mood for over 6 to 8 months concurrently.
And 80% of the population fits that criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that. And I see it in myself. I've seen me have anxiety and depression, especially seeing some of what my children are going through and stuff like that. But that's crazy. So can you prevent mental health problems?
Can you prevent it? Well, a lot of it is, I mean, you've got the internal, you've got the changes in your brain. Mm-hmm. The changes in how your neurotransmitters are working, and the dopamine and the serotonin, and on and on and on. There's probably a dozen of them, and how your brain is producing those and absorbing those. So you've got the internal part, but you also have the external part. And so for some people, is it preventable? Only if they could prevent life happening to them.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
For other people, it is something that is genetic. Mm-hmm. And it's been known that there was a hereditary component to this, but now the evolutionary biologists and the geneticists are seeing that these things don't necessarily hop from generation to generation to generation. Sometimes they'll skip multiple generations and appear all of a sudden. And sometimes, they're still trying to figure all that out. Will they be able to eliminate it at some point? Probably not. And truthfully, that would be very 1984-ish, very Big Brother-ish.
Which we're kind of living in.
Yeah, and if we got to that point, that would take a lot of the uniqueness out of an individual too.
Josh wants to know, what would you fit severe depression under?
Under as far as,
I don't know. That's what he just said. Josh, you want to clarify your question?
Well, severe depression, All right, so there's severity, and severity meaning how intense it is, and then there is the frequency, and the longer term would be chronic, which means just going over for a long period of time. Acute would be it's really really strong and really really intense.
Just
Hello,
say
Bruce
hi.
City. Hey, Aaron Rodgers.
Hey, Ron. That's what we call him.
That's a barbecuing fool right there.
Yeah.
So as far as what would I fit it under? I mean, it's a mood disorder. It is if we're breaking it down to its simplest component. But so is anxiety,
Yeah.
and a lot of other things.
So does anyone have any questions for Andy concerning mental health before we move on to the beard related topics? I just know that seeing family members go through mental health issues and doing things to themselves or hurting others and stuff like that, it's definitely been a toll in my family, and I can see myself being affected because that person's been affected. And so that's why I wanted to ask you, is something that you can prevent? Is there something that we can do to help, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I think what we're going to find out is, and so I'm going to be very careful how I say this, because I don't want it to be in any way political or any way have anything to do with anybody's belief system. But I think we're going to find out in the next year or so, as this COVID pandemic winds down, that a lot of people are in survival mode right now.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, and they're kind of tensed up. And whenever they relax, I think we're going to see. And I actually think some of the societal problems that we're dealing with right now are as a result of the pressure, the isolation, the
social media, because of the isolation.
Mm-hmm. And simply being afraid of these things. And I mean, we can all, I'm a big, tough, strong man. I don't get afraid of anything. Yeah. Well, good for you, buddy, but you're not fooling anybody but you. All right. It's much better. It's much better to say, you know what, this bothers me, but I'm going to deal with it, as opposed to trying to pretend that you're Superman somehow.
Well, and then the whole issue with the pandemic. I almost passed away. You wouldn't know this, but I almost passed away. I was in the hospital, and the doctor told me to say goodbye to my parent or my family. And I don't remember a lot of it because my body was starting to shut down due to lack of oxygen, and Candace was there talking to the doctor about it. And I just remember just how scared I was because I hadn't taken the preventative measures to help my family after I pass away. Like, I'm like, crap, do I have enough life insurance? All this kind of stuff. But now I see me as all of a sudden I heard of a new variant that it bypassed all the antibodies and stuff like that. And it actually it scares me because I'm like, if I go through that again, I don't think I can survive. And so I think a lot of that is affecting me too, especially, like I went on from New Orleans, I flew here and I saw there was a guy and he just was coughing. He had a face mask on, but he was coughing, wiping his nose and all this, and he was sitting right next to me, and it actually gave me severe anxiety because I'm like, dude, what are you doing on this plane? And I used to not get that way.
Well, I think and this is gonna, everyone thinks that they live in an area that's very prone to a lot of allergies, but South Georgia, particularly, with all the amount of pine trees that we have and the swamp being right here, this is one of the hotbeds for any kind of allergies. And so under normal circumstances, before anybody had heard of COVID, people get sick and the sniffles and cough and all that kind of stuff all the time anyway. Yeah. So for us, it's been kind of, and me being in a position where I do interact with a lot of different people over the course of the day, I have to take extra precautions, not just for me and my family, but also the people that I serve. So, You can't be a helper if you're passing something around. So,
yeah, it's a crazy time we live in. So Nick H asked you a question with dealing with the certain people on a daily basis. Does this affect you personally?
Okay, so no, it does not. And the reason for that is, and I tell new counselors this all the time, my secret weapon, a counselor's secret weapon, is objectivity. I can't be emotionally involved in what my client has going on to be effective for them.
See, and I think that's a skill set. That's a skill set because I don't know a lot of people who can do that.
Well, and a lot of people think that that they pay me, that I'm paid to pretend to care. That's not the case at all. I wouldn't be in the job if I didn't care. But what I'm there for is to kind of help you figure out a better way for you to deal with, cope with, conduct yourself in situations.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, do I care about my people? Absolutely. And whenever I lose one to COVID or to cancer or drug overdose or whatever, does it affect me? Absolutely. But on a daily basis, no, you kind of have to, if I have Brian, Joe, and Billy back to back to back in an afternoon, I can't be present for Joey if I'm still thinking about Brian.
That makes sense.
So, no, it really doesn't. It does take a toll on you, and you need to take a break and take care of yourself, but not in the way that you think it would.
Great answer. Yeah, I definitely think that's a skill set, but just like you said, if someone passed away from a drug overdose or cancer or COVID, it does take a toll. It does affect you because, I mean, you're human. Andy, how long have you been in this field of work?
All right, so I've been a counselor since 2000. I have worked with people with special needs of every stripe and shape and size since 1980. I want to say 86 or 87. So I'm in it.
Yeah, a while. All right. So if anyone doesn't have any more questions for that, let's get into what we all came for this too. But specifically, so how did you become interested in the bearded community?
All right. So secret time. So
Ooh.
Guys, don't let this out.
Yeah.
I had really bad acne whenever I was a teenager. So as soon as I turned 18, got out on my own, I grew a beard. And at that time, we're talking, late 80s, early 90s, beards weren't really a thing, which it wasn't so much about fitting in as, beard trimmers were not something that you could just go down to Walmart and pick up.
Yeah.
You couldn't go to Target to buy these kind of things. It wasn't until, it was right whenever I discovered all these videos on YouTube about beard care that I discovered that beard oil was something out there. So whenever I found those videos, it was like, wait a minute, hold on. I can't grow my beard out because, in the past, if I'm not using anything, no matter how short my beard is, I get covered with chin growth, really, really bad. And did everything I could think of, including the worst thing to do for it. Selsun Blue, just about the worst thing you can do for your beard, especially if you're not using beard products. So,
yeah,
a little helpful hint from an old guy: don't use Selsun Blue in your beard to try to get rid of the flakes. It will not work. It'll make it worse.
Yeah, so you had a beard before it was even popular. when everyone looked at beards and tattoos and like, what is he, a gangster? Like, there was a lot of that. So, sorry. So, what trends do you see coming in 2022? Not specifics in the beard community or in the beard industry. What trends do you see coming up in the year to come?
Okay,
not any special secrets or anything, because that's not professional. But just what do you see coming?
I think I see a. All right, so let's use history as kind of a predictor. So if you look back at the car industry in the early 1900s, so 1905, 1908, blah, 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 there were literally hundreds and hundreds of different car manufacturers in the United States.
There was.
And as things got rolling, a lot of those smaller companies went away. What I see, especially with IFRA 49 coming out and the increased scrutiny that's going to be, that I see coming, and it's not just the United States, okay? So whichever political party you key up on, and think that the other one is responsible for everything that goes on, no, put that out of your mind. This is a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
And if we're truthful about it, the EU is probably the biggest driver right now. But anyway, I see more of a professionalization of the industry. I think it's going to be a lot harder for the, and I hate using this term. So if there's a beard company owner hearing this, I do not mean this derogatorily, but the kitchen chemists are going to have a lot harder of a time getting started, which I think honestly is kind of a bad thing in a way. But at the same time, there are so many bad actors out there. And you got to remember, it only takes one bad actor for everybody to be under increased scrutiny.
Yeah. For everyone who doesn't know, do you want to explain to them what 49 is? Because it is going to affect all of us, and it's going to affect your sense strength, just so you guys are aware.
Yeah, so beard care products got moved. All right, so if you don't know what IFRA is, it's the advocacy agency for the fragrance and cosmetic and body product and all that stuff industry. They're actually the advocate. People get it twisted and think that IFRA is actually the enemy, but IFRA is the one that kind of keeps everybody informed about these changes that occur around the world. Now, in the United States, it's very, very easy for somebody just to set up an e-business, and get as far as they can get with it. In other parts of the world, things are regulated a lot more. So the big change with beard products, they move from category 3 into category 5B. So a lot of the percentages, okay, so let me keep this. I don't want to get too in the weeds with this. So what this means is a lot of the products that you use that have a fragrance are not going to be as strong as they used to be. If you're an older fellow that remembers colognes from the 1980s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and how strong they were and how powerful they are, you can go now and get those same ones. Okay, perfect example. In the mid 90s, I used to rock Ricard Noir. That was my scent. If I wanted to smell good, I just sprayed myself down with that, and we were good, buddy.
See, and I think I wore Hugo. I think I wore Hugo Boss.
I have the only Hugo Boss I have is Hugo Boss #1.
Okay.
So, but anyway, they had a lot more staying power. They were a lot more powerful. And due to the changes in the industry, they can't make them as strong and powerful as they used to be. You can still get Ricard Noir, but to get that same kind of effect, you're not going to be hitting yourself 2-3 times. You're going to be hitting yourself like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So, but that's a result of changes in the regulations in countries around the world.
Yeah, and it's just so everyone knows. So, like, for instance, knife pulp, I have to adjust that formula, and it's still going to smell great. It's just not going to be as strong, which is a good thing for you guys, just to keep you guys safe. Even though I feel like right now what we're doing is safe, but it's just to keep it the industry standard and keep it regulated, I would say. And so it's a good thing that it's doing it.
Oh yeah. Well, it does come down to
there is a lot of frustration because I do have to not change everything, just change a few cents of mine.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of overkill myself. Some of these ingredients are they affect such a small percentage of the population that it's really kind of okay. Wouldn't it be easier if these 3 people that are allergic to it in this country just stay away from it, as opposed to banning something?
Kind of like nut allergies. If you have a nut allergy, don't eat nuts. Don't ban it from everyone else. I hear you on that.
Yeah, it's just, but that's the story of oak moss.
So, Bearded Pamper Chef, he asked you a question. Why is it good if you're already doing it safely? Safety standards change. That's the only way I can say it.
Well, I mean, the standards change. That's what this whole thing is about. Research has shown that doctors were actually doing more harm than good for patients up until like the 1950s. So if you were going to a hospital for something, they were doing more harm to you than they were doing good.
Yeah, they used to bleed you out. You have a cold, they cut you and bleed out.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things.
No, that's a great question. So on Instagram, I asked, I posted my story, and only one person responded, and that was Steven, the bearded metal guy, that metal guy, 1983, and he wanted to know, what is your top 5 favorite carriers and why?
Carriers, specific
Castor,
ingredients,
metal foam, jojoba. What are your top 5 and why? Dun dun dun.
Oh God. I like a lot of them, but I challenge that question on this merit. So and Tyson and I were talking about this before we came on. I love Castor. It's good stuff, but to get the most benefit out of it for me, I do better with between 5% and 10% in a blend, as opposed to some of these really, really Castor heavy blends. Is that to say am I coming out against the heavy Castor blend? No. I'm just saying, for me and my beard and my skin, I get better results whenever it's part of a blend, as opposed to being a main carrier. There are tons of great carriers out there. For me, I think it's more, and again, I'm trying to stay out of the weeds here, but for me, it's more about balancing your fatty acids, which if you're a beard company owner and you hear that and you're not nodding your head, don't read up on it. On it. You can make a much better blend if you balance those fatty acids than you will be chasing trends. All right, so Castor has been used for forever, and so yes, it's great, it's good, it's wonderful stuff. I get better results when it's used in moderation, as opposed to being a main player. What was another one? Emu oil came out, and oh my God, everybody had to have emu. If you didn't have an emu blend, you were being left behind. I tried some of those really, really heavy blends, And then I tried one that was a lower percentage of it and got much better result. So it's not that MU is crap. It's just that I do better when the fats are blended, whenever there's a balance of the oils.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Like, I like ostrich, or I like emu, I like all those, but I have to use in moderation, like I said, or it just sits and coats my beard rather than soaks in and makes it better. But that's just my beard too. All right. While we're still talking, I wanted to ask the chat so that you can answer some questions for him. What beard issues do you currently have? What are some of the issues that you're facing right now concerning your beard? And then we'll talk about that. So while we're waiting to see what they have to say, why don't you talk about how you create sense and work with companies?
All right, say that again for me.
How do you create sense and how do you work with companies?
Well, right now I'm in the process of learning how to. So there's a science and there's an art to building sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just, hey, what smells good. You have to put it together in a way that it can safely be used in a product.
Yep.
So right now I'm still very much learning about the chemistry side of it. And oh my God, I wish I would have taken chemistry in high school. My God, why did I take physics? I could do anything with physics. I could have actually used the chemistry, but I'm really, it's a lot more research right now than it is spending time at the table putting stuff together.
Yeah, people don't understand that. It's like you'll have one that says, okay, you can only use 1% of this solution or this fragrance, but then you have another one that says you can use 4% of this, and another one that says maybe like 3%. So, okay, if I mix it together, what does that mean? Does that mean I can only have 1% of that total solution? Because if I put 1% and then you weigh it out and you have all the you have the right percentage, I'm like, so everyone doesn't understand that. Like, people are like, Tyson, you need to do this, this, and this, and I'm like, it's not that easy. I'm like, there's a lot into it.
Well, and so lesson number one was we buy products based on volume. We buy it by ounce, but it's sold to the company in grams or kilograms. So you buy it by weight and you sell it by volume.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as percentages go, I mean, it's just we could, I'm willing to take the ride with you, man. But I think we might put people to sleep if we go.
Right?
Really.
I think some people are interested in it.
Well, I'm curious, as kind of a secondary thing, but I'm kind of curious how companies that have been getting a lot of business from people like you are going to adjust to these new IFRA standards. Because, and I was just had a conversation with a mutual friend, and he was telling me that, one of the companies that a lot of guys use, a lot of beard company owners use, that most of their stuff doesn't meet IFRA anymore.
No.
And so, okay, yeah. Now, does that mean it can't be put in a candle or put in something that's not put on the body? Oh, absolutely, yeah, sure.
No, we just have to abide by 5B now. Will come 2022, and so basically, I know who you're talking about because him and I had the same conversation, and it's just going to be a lot of back to the drawing board, like trying to get the same scent, but it's not going to be as strong and powerful, and it just is what it is.
Well, and so this is kind of counterintuitive, but lately I've been wearing a lot more unscented stuff because I am starting to work on my own scents. And so really it kind of taking me back around where I started when it comes to beard product, because when I first started doing reviews several years ago, I really focused on the carrier blend. What did it do for my beard? And so I've kind of gotten back around to that. And I went from being someone who was just learning about everything to instantly a collector and having hundreds of bottles. And then 2 years later, realizing that a lot of those were going bad to now I'm kind of going the other way. That's not to say I won't be buying, scented products at all. No, that's not going to happen. But it's definitely, I don't feel like I need to. If for me, it's not necessarily the best thing to try to chase that scent as much as it is. Okay, this is a new ingredient. Let's say emu oil or ostrich oil, or maybe if you've never used, I don't know, pumpkin seed oil or broccoli seed oil or hemp seed oil, that just to see how it does on your beard, and keep in mind that it's the blend, not just that one ingredient.
Yes. Yep, and that's what I was talking about. It's like everyone has to understand that when you blend something and everything has different ratios, how does that go together to tie it into the weight in order to put it in the ratio that's right? So there's a lot to it.
Oh yeah.
So E, the question he says is he has a lot of knots and split ends. So what do you recommend him doing or taking or anything like that with knots and split ends?
Split ends, all you can do is condition, and keep them trimmed. Them knots, man, that's unique.
Yeah,
that's not something white guys tend to get a whole lot.
I noticed I was getting a lot more knots around here due to my face mask.
Yeah, I've still got. I call it the COVID dip.
Yeah,
but it's just about a permanent. It's just about a permanent dip that it's just impossible to brush out. As far as knots go, I would say if you do not know who Bearded Existence is, which I'm sure you know who X is, he's the man. X is the man when it comes to.
Yeah, you need to Troy. Bearded Troy needs to contact you about scents because you're all into scents, and that's what he does too. He's actually really smart. He sells his colognes that he makes like $300 or something like that an ounce. Like he does really well. I'm just reading. Vato just doesn't have enough money, so how does he fix that?
Vato.
So Josh says, if an oil goes bad and loses its scent, can you still use it?
Well, it's not like milk. It's not going to go bad in a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
And usually it's kind of a slow breakdown of it. As far as the scents go, it depends on what they use. Okay. Now, I'm going to let you in on another little secret. So 2 people that are professional perfumers, those guys that went to and got their master's degree in France and are professional perfumers, they consider the entire beard industry. They consider all of us as making hippie juice, all right, because we're using oil-based product as opposed to their aroma chemicals. And the reason the perfume industry did away with that stuff years ago, decades, maybe even a century ago, was because those things don't last as long. So you are never, ever, ever going to get a oil-based product that you can make a cologne or a perfume out of that's going to perform like anything that you buy at the department store, because it's 2 different things. Oil doesn't evaporate the same way alcohol does, and that evaporation is what causes that projection of scent, and that what they call sillage, which is SILLAGE, and that's the scent trail.
And also,
as far
sorry, no, keep going. I'm enjoying it.
But as far as if it's going bad, it just won't be as effective for you. If it's gone bad, it's probably going to smell bad.
Yeah. And I've noticed also it depends on what fragrances are being used. I mean, there's some low end and there's some upper end. and the lower end are going to go bad sooner than later. It doesn't mean that the carrier blend's bad, but it definitely does affect the overall scent. So Nick said, Mr. Dan C says oil is usually good for roughly 2 years. I would go with that.
2 years. Well, it depends.
It depends on what's in it.
Grapeseed oil can go bad in as short a time as 6 months. I've had grapeseed oil last me for a year and a half.
Speaking of which, Bruce City Bearded asked, what are your thoughts on grapeseed? Right when you started talking about it.
What are my thoughts on it? So it depends on who your customer is. If your customer is someone that buys a couple of bottles of beard oil, uses them up, and they're gone in 6-8 months, they're never going to have a problem.
No.
Never going to have a problem. If, however, they are one of those guys that has hundreds of bottles of beard oil, they may come around to that and start thinking that your stuff is suck. Even if it's good quality stuff, they're gonna look at you and think that it's low quality. Let's be honest,
the majority of the world just buys 1 or 2 at a time. You know what I mean? They don't buy hundreds at a time. So, grapeseed is going to be great for those type of people. But for us who buy, like I have a ton. I got 2 from 2 different companies this past week, and absolutely love them. And I like to buy other people's stuff just to show them that I care, and as well as to try out their stuff. And I personally can't do grapeseed. I can't. It burns my skin. I don't know why it does. Like I have to take testosterone shots because I went in for depression, found out that my hormones were out of whack, and so my wife gives me a shot, and they gave me a shot, and it was full of grapeseed, and it welted me. And then come to find out, I burn everywhere when I use grapeseed, so I can't use it. So that's why I don't have it. It wasn't because I thought it was bad. It was just because I personally can't use it. So why would I have it in my product? So I had an oil with grapeseed go bad in 5 months. That company took that out. So now I look forward to getting them again. Nice.
Yeah. And honestly, man, and that's one of the things that I'm sad to see go about this cottage industry is that relationship that you develop with owners and companies, and you feel like you're invested in that company, and it's like you root for them. You don't root for I guess some guys do if you're into racing. You don't root for Ford or GM or Dodge. Unless you're a race car fan, I guess. But it's that same kind of way, except you can actually reach out and talk to a lot of these owners.
Yeah. Some of my closest friends are my customers as well, and I've grown really close to a lot of them. And I don't see that ever changing. I might, but just as friends get, the older and wiser and stuff, you don't see each other as much.
And hopefully you get more friends.
Yeah. Because I only have 2 customers right now, and we're good friends, though. Bruce City. I have never had issues with it, but oils with grapeseed don't seem to work as well for me. Yeah.
And you know what, man? I when I see that, I think, yep. It just depends on your individual makeup, your diet, your climate, genetics, all of that kind of stuff. And
speaking of climate, well, I went to New Orleans with Cruz, Waltz, and a couple other guys, Casey, Troy. We all went to New Orleans. We went to LSU game. We went to the Saints game, all that fun stuff. But I felt like I didn't need to use butter because of the humidity, and I've never had experience that except in Alaska, where I put oil in, and it was like, dude, this is crazy. Environment does play a huge role in it, and I knew it did, but actually seeing it firsthand like that, it was because I live in a very, very dry climate.
Well, and the other Tyson in the community was talking about whenever he Faithfully Bearded was talking about. Now he lives up in South Dakota. He uses I think he said balm. It may have been butter, but he said he has to use more during the day in the wintertime up there just because it's so dry and blustery, and it gets but cold up there, fellas. I ain't gonna lie to you, it gets cold up there. So climate does play a role. Does play a role. Now, I am 20 miles from Florida. So,
how close do you live to Mo? The bearded shark. He lives in Rome. Oh, I don't know if
Mo? Rome is about 6 hours.
Nice.
So Rome is in northwest Georgia, and I am almost in the center of the state. If you look at a map with the roads on it, I-75, yeah, right above the last little dot that you see before you go into Florida is me, Valdosta.
Quick question: are you a college football fan?
Am I what?
College football fan. Dude, you guys
I root for the defense. I root for the defense.
Well, the only reason why I say that is Alabama lost, which was awesome for anyone who doesn't like Alabama. And then Georgia's now number one.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, it always changes.
So just in case anybody local sees this, all right. So in the state of Georgia, University of Georgia is far and away. You would swear that everyone most people that live in Georgia actually attended college in Athens. They did not. Trust me on that. They didn't go to college anywhere. But I root for the defense. I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off for Georgia. Georgia won the national championship back in 1980. And since then, every year, this is going to be the year. And it's like, okay, we'll see.
I don't know. This year actually might be their year.
It might be. I also remember that for like 15 years straight, the Atlanta Braves made the playoffs, and they did go to the World Series, twice?
Yeah, that was with Smoltz and Maddox, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Dude, that was such a fun. And then Chipper Jones. Was it Chipper Jones?
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun team to watch.
So I don't get too excited whenever now high school football, completely different story. That's actually what rules in Georgia. High school football.
Billy, he's from Georgia. He's a Georgia fan. He goes, "We always drop number one ranking. I'm worried now."
Oh yeah. Every year, and my dad is a diehard Georgia fan. He only buys red trucks because of red and black trucks because of the University of Georgia. He's in his 70s and he gets on those message boards and he does his best to keep up with everything about the dog. And every year it's like, it's just going to be.
So everyone in chat, if you have already got Bourbon Bayou and have received it, how would you describe that for Vato? And then after you guys describe it, I'll tell you how I feel about it. This is the one, Andy, I want to send to you. It's Nag Champa. Now I have to go through everything because it's my most elaborate one. It's Nag Champa smoke, but it's a really, really good musky smoke. Like it's good. Tobacco, cedar, orange, bourbon, honey. I think that's it. It's almost like you go into Bourbon Street. That's why we call it Bourbon Bayou. It's like you go into one of their shots and it smells very incense. You smell the wood, smell like the bourbon that's on the counter with the orange slice. That's what it reminds me of.
Funny thing, the first scent that I actually helped develop was called Bayou Noir.
Oh, really? And what was that? Nag Champa?
Let's see, what was it? It was very woodsy. There was oak, I think cypress, a touch of vanilla. It had a little bit of leather in it, had a little bit of bourbon in it, and other things. They weren't listed. But yeah, that was with Man Beard Coat. So he actually, he doesn't live in Georgia anymore, but he actually was born and raised in the town that I was born in. Didn't grow up here, but
nice. Yeah, so we went on the CMU with Cruz on Friday nights with Healthy Bearded, and we actually were doing our Airbnb, but we were in the ghetto. It was like I wasn't scared. Walt was. But I've lived in places like that before where it was just, you're single and stuff like that. And but anyway, we couldn't get the internet to work, so we had to go rent out a conference room out of the Marriott, and so that we could do that. And then we went to the LSU game and Saints game, and it was just fun. But we introduced that down in and then we went to Bourbon Street that night, and we're like, nope, not again. We went at 1:00 in the morning, and because everyone says it's amazing until about 3. Just keep going and go see. I swear everyone was 21, 22, 23, and there were fights and throw up and peeing and other activities that you wish you didn't see, and cops everywhere. It was crazy. But what an experience.
Yeah, if you've never been to the French Quarter in New Orleans, that's definitely something to experience when you're young.
Yeah, not my age. No, when I walked, I was there for 45 minutes. I'm like, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for me. But during the day, we went there, and I got some of the beignets, and holy crap, those are good. Yeah. And then I got to do a little bit of shopping and stuff like that Vato said Jay Cruz was flashing for his beads. No, but he did. I don't know if I'm allowed to, Cruz, but he did go get a foot massage while I was shopping for my kids, doing some little things like that. And it was cool. Really cool experience. Okay. So those are kind of the questions that I have for you, but then I always like to end using would you rather questions. So if anyone else has any questions about your beard or any questions for Andy, please plop those in there. In the meantime, first would you rather question. Would you rather be a genius and know everything or be amazing at an activity you've tried?
Ooh. I would rather be amazing at any activity that I tried. If I knew everything, life would be boring to me.
Yeah.
I really enjoy learning. And I mean, honestly speaking, when I'm done here, I'll, finish up my chores for the evening, and I'll go watch a history documentary. I love learning. I love learning.
What kind of history do you like? All?
Oh man. So this weekend has been Neolithic and ancient Japanese history. So it's just whatever I see. It's like, oh, I don't know anything about that, and you'll learn about that for a little bit.
Have you watched? Just because you said Japan and all this stuff, have you watched the Pacific? It was an HBO documentary. Well, it wasn't a documentary, but it was a small mini-series.
Have not seen that one yet.
Band of Brothers and the Pacific. It's about World War II and just kind of what they went through, a certain squadron. And dude, if you can handle war, if you've ever seen Saving Private Ryan, it's like that, but with the Pacific and how they hop from island to island and how they survived and all that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I tend to avoid World War II and the Civil War.
Okay.
Just because I grew up before the History Channel was all Pawn Shop and Ancient Alien. All they would do is Civil War and World War II. So I just kind of got, it happened. Good stuff, bad stuff. Okay, whatever. I want to learn something about something else. Plus, being in the South, the Civil War is such a
prominent.
It's just too many people have too many different ideas that no matter which side you take, there's going to be, it's just a topic for an argument.
Oh, okay.
Regardless of what you believe, or no matter, if you just want to look at things factually.
Yeah. I did just watch one on the Disney Plus channel. We have Disney Plus. We don't have TV, but I have a few little things here and there. And I have Disney Plus for my kids, but they have the Nat Geo channel on it. And they had one that I was watching during dinner because my kids were like, and I'm like, no, get off YouTube. We're done. And I watched one where they were in Egypt and they found a tomb that was in the middle of the Sahara, and they had to bury it, and it was full of water. And so they were scuba diving in the middle of the desert, and they were exploring, and they found all this gold and this empty tomb and everything. Dude, if you have Disney Plus, that was a really good one. I really enjoyed that.
Egyptology is extremely interesting, and a lot
Right?
more. There's a lot more depth to it than just, yeah, I saw the mummy. Okay, great.
Yeah.
You're aware there are pyramids. You're aware there are pharaohs. Great. No, they have a very rich history.
Well, it's just like Macedonia, right? And the Nile, and how everything was so. The reason why the pyramids were there, because it was a very a lot of wildlife, a lot of it was just a hardy land, and now it's not. And so it's just kind of cool how you just see how everything worked and why it worked and why they worshipped who they worshipped and all that kind of stuff. I think that stuff is really interesting too. I would agree with you. So it's family history near and dear to all. I do like family history.
Well, in that respect, not so much. My family, I'm pretty sure we have fought on the losing side of pretty much every war, except for World War II. So yeah, I don't look at it from that angle.
No, it's still there. You just can't tell. Like if I do, I don't know, it's still there. Just the background. You can't see it. But yeah, so and again, anyone who wants to ask a question, we're here. I'm almost done with all the questions. So would you rather dine alone or watch a movie alone, basically?
Definitely would rather watch a movie by myself.
100%. I totally agree with you. That's something that I really do enjoy is watching movies by myself. Then I can just not worry about anything. Like if I'm watching a movie with my kid or something, I'm always worried if I've never seen them. Like, crap, can they see this? Can I see, all that kind of stuff. But I took my my two middle boys to go see Venom, and I was worried the whole time that something was going to happen.
Oh yeah.
All right, next question. Would you rather be the richest person in the world or be immortal?
I'd rather be immortal.
Why is that?
More experiences.
Okay. And also, as you're immortal, you're going to grow in wealth as well. All right. So if there's any questions for everyone else, if not, that's pretty much it. No one submitted any pictures to the gallery, so there's no winners this week, unfortunately. But yeah, Andy, do you have anything else you would like to ask?
Yeah, guys, take care of you. Take care of yourself, and be aware that everybody's going through a lot right now, and it's affecting everybody. So tread softly, and if you run into somebody that's just struggling and you can't deal with it, just back off from it. Take care of you.
Yeah, he was talking. When we were talking about the Disney Plus Nat Geo one about the Kuan Yin Pharaoh buried under the water.
Now there's a Chinese emperor that they know where his grave is. I think he was the first or one of the first emperors. They cannot get to his grave because he basically immersed his entire tomb with mercury. And there's so much mercury in his tomb that it actually seeps up through the soil, and it's actually not safe for people. Now, there's all kind of plants and trees and everything else growing on top of that mound, but they're afraid to go in there because of all the mercury.
Wow. That is crazy. Yeah, I've not heard of that one. So you were just talking about taking care of yourself and all that kind of stuff. How can you tell if you're like, for instance, like, how can you tell if you have the depression, if you have all that kind of stuff? It's just like, you're just like, dude, I'm off, or how can one person know?
The easiest way to kind of keep yourself in check is to ask your loved one or to listen to your loved one. If your wife tells you, gee, you seem like you've been coming home cranky every day. Now, this is, we didn't actually go through all of the different symptoms, but unexplained anger is actually a symptom of depression. I don't know, maybe 50% of the guys I work with that come in, they tell me they have an anger problem. And I can tell you within talking to you 5 minutes or so, whether you have an anger problem or if this is, I won't be able to get to the root of it. I won't be able to tell you exactly what's causing it, but I can generally tell if this is a mood issue or if this is an anger issue pretty quickly. So that if you find that you're losing interest in the things that you've always enjoyed doing, all right, Tyson, always into fishing. If all of a sudden you just don't have any fire or interest in fishing anymore, that would be a pretty big red flag. Okay, wait a minute, hold on. I know something's going on here. So, what else? Well, the big one for every single mental health disorder in the book, and there is actually a book. It's called the DSM-5. That's the one we use here in the United States. But sleeping, your appetite, and your energy level. If you're sleeping too much, that can be a problem. If you're not sleeping enough, that can be a problem.
How so?
If you're constantly hungry, that's a problem. If you don't have an appetite at all, that's a problem. If you find that, and a lot of people have become dependent on energy drinks, and that low energy is masking, the energy drinks are actually masking some underlying issues. Now, they may not be life disrupting kind of problems. It might be small problems, but I attribute a lot of the energy drink usage to what I call SLS, which is SHIT life syndrome. So, if you're struggling to get your bills paid, if you're worried about your kids, if financial problems at work, problems finding a job, these kind of things can have an impact on you.
Yeah. So sleeping not in. So I've always heard sleeping too much could be a form of or a sign of depression, but not sleeping enough. How does that affect? Like, how do you know if that's an affection or a part of depression? Like you're sleeping 2-3 hours instead of 12, 13.
Well, on average, a healthy adult needs between 6 and 8 hours a day. So if you're getting 6 and you're fine, you might be one of those people that just doesn't need a lot of sleep. As you get older, and this blows people's mind, but if you think about it, if you look at an infant, that little baby will sleep probably 20 hours a day.
Oh, yeah.
You look at your grandparents, if you remember your grandparents, they would go to bed 10, 11, 12 o'clock, and they'd be up at 4 or 5 in the morning.
It's true.
As you get older, you don't need as much sleep. So if your sleep is beginning to get impacted, I would look at your activity level. Are you getting enough exercise? One of the very best things that you can do for yourself is to take a walk outside. Not for exercise specifically,
Casey.
but getting that extra.
He's talking about me.
Oh yeah, overworking yourself. Oh yeah, dude. I am a big tisser when it comes to all this dominate the day and hustle culture and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe that leads us to a healthy place.
I love this conversation. I've learned a lot from you today.
Yeah.
But
and you know, a lot of your I've actually had several conversations with some of your peers that are working full-time jobs and trying to run a beer company. It's like, dude, you need to pace yourself. You know,
yeah, but the question is how? Like, I mean, I'm doing this for my family and for me. Don't get me wrong. I'm doing this for me as well, so that I can be self-sufficient. Also, do something that I absolutely love this, but I also love teaching. But the reason why I said it is like I only sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. Like it's just I just do, and because I'm always doing stuff for this, and I'm not complaining and all that kind of stuff, but not getting enough sleep, I have noticed that it does weigh on me at the end of the week. And then, so tonight I'm going to go, like after this, instead of working on Copper Johns, my wife and I are literally going to go drive up the canyon, go fishing. And we're going to do that tomorrow morning. And then I'll fulfill the orders because USPS isn't open tomorrow. And so I can't ship out anything because of Columbus Day. And so,
it's not something that I'm an expert in, but I did spend some time studying industrial psychology. And one of the things that we talked about, one thing that I learned about was how much time we waste by not being organized and how much time we can fill up our day doing busy work and instead of being productive. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. But, you know, a lot of times it does come down to being more efficient and working smarter as opposed to, you know, trying to grunt your way through it and put in a 12-hour day when you can get it done in 3 or 4 hours.
Oh, I 100% agree with you. I'm not as organized as I should be. And that's something that Casey and I are working on. For me, just because I feel like I'm always going at it and it's like I'm never catching up and I don't get it.
Well, and whenever you're a one-man show too, you don't have that division of labor.
Yeah.
So, you know, the creative stuff, the marketing side of things, which I know nothing about. I don't know anything about marketing.
Neither do I.
But the marketing stuff, I know scent building is a whole lot more. I always knew there was more to it than I knew, but getting in there and actually doing it, and you start looking at how just adding 1 more milligram of this and taking this milligram out can completely change the scent profile and all that kind of stuff. And you want to do a good job, you know.
And I love getting suggestions for scent profiles. Like that's something that's cool to me because I love the fruity, I love the outdoor scents, all the citrus scents, stuff like that. I'm not good at dark. And so me doing this Bourbon Bayou, I actually got this from Walt, Gentleman's Prime, and I'm actually really, really proud of it because just like you said, it was like perfect to me. And then all of a sudden we added just this little bit of tobacco and it changed everything and it made it unbelievable. And I'm just like, just adding just a little bit, you know what I mean? It was just like, holy crap. And it just what you're saying, just doing this and doing this, just like anything affects it. And even if it is just a milligram.
Well, for me, whenever there's 2 different ways. Either I come up with an idea or I'm kind of spitballing with somebody about ideas. I tend to look at styles of what's worked in the past. And you can go, there's a lot of different websites out there where you can look up an idea, an interpretation of the note breakdown of a particular fragrance. And if you just go by the marketing stuff, you're going to get maybe 3, 4 notes. You might get 6. You go to these sites, you'll get maybe 10, 15. And in actuality, they're probably using 30 or 40.
Yeah.
So unless you're using some really fancy equipment, that I didn't get to learn about because I didn't take chemistry class. Yeah, a lot of it is guesswork. But so I get them come to me with, hey, what do you think about this scent and that? And so I'm going to use some perfumal words here. So if something doesn't make sense, just hit it in the chat, and I'll answer it for you. But somebody came up to me recently. What do you think about these 4 ingredients together? And I said, oh, that's a Shipra. Yeah, that's a solid. That was popular back in the 70s. It's been reformulated and changed
I think I said
around.
something not to you. I actually talked to you about Nightfall, and you said something like that to me.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's a whole lot of different categories out there that are already established categories, and they have a basic setup. I tend to, just being me, I tend to look at them. I want them to have a top note. I want them to have a mid. And I want them to have a base. So I shoot for what I consider the golden egg, having a scent that evolved. And it's very, very difficult to do, especially with the oil-based components that you have to use in beard oil. Very, very difficult to do. And man, when you find one, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's not a measure of how good that person is that made that product. It's just, that's the magic of it. That's the magic of it.
Yeah, I think you'll like Bourbon Bayou. I'm going to send it to you. But yeah, fishing is great for my mental health. Anytime I can get out in nature. Oh, I 100%. That's my.
Oh yeah. And it's great because number one, you're outside, so you've got a whole lot of. You've got the sound of the wind, the sound of the water. You've got the smells. You've got the visual stimuli. So you are giving yourself your brain a whole lot to take in, and nobody's asking you questions.
Oh, isn't that the best?
Yes.
Like you have no phone reception when you're usually out there in the outdoors, and you're just you, and you can just take that 2-3 hours that you're out and just go take a deep breath and just relax. That's my favorite.
I'm going to be honest. I've actually gone fishing and didn't use bait just because I needed to get away.
No, I get that. Sometimes I know for a fact I'll use a lure that I know I'm not going to catch anything, but it's just the casting and just reeling in. Hopefully I catch something, but in my mind I'm like, I'm not catching anything. Yeah, punching a heavy bag is great relief.
So there's different thoughts on that. In the past, there was a style of counseling called Primal scream therapy, where the therapist would have the patient scream as loud as they could, just scream and scream and scream until they just got it all out. And what they found is, and you see this a lot too with like professional football players. You'll notice that they have a very, very high occurrence of domestic violence.
They do
a lot of violent crime, and that's because football taught them how to be better at being angry. So I would say if you could probably get those same endorphins to release by going for a run, or maybe chopping wood, or doing something else that was physically exerted.
Yeah, I know.
But now, if you're just one of them guys that like to sling the knuckles, hey,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I will go work out, and what's funny is everyone listens to hardcore, like I'm listening to Metallica, I'm listening to Korn, which by the way I love those groups. But 9 out of 10 times I'm listening to show tunes or Johnny Cash, and that's what relaxes me, and that's what gets me going. So I think everyone just has a little bit different. Let's see what he says. Working a full-time job is what it is, but what I do for myself at Simple Solutions is an amazing creative release. So he's the one who made these for me.
Man, I've got a friend who's also a professional counselor, and he kind of goes back and forth depending upon how well his woodworking business is doing. But if he had his say, he would spend all day in the wood shop.
Yeah.
I find I envy him. I don't have those skills, and I certainly don't have the tools. But yeah, uh, I'm one of those guys that I've watched a lot of videos on. If you remember Norm Abrams in the New Yankee Workshop, and there was another one. He was much smaller than Norm, but the wheelwright. He would go to these places where they would use 18th century technology to make wooden furniture or barrels or whatever. And I always thought that was extremely interesting. But yeah, I totally get that. Doing something creative like that's win on win right there.
Yeah, and he does a great job, and he enjoys it. And what's nice about, like, you're talking about creative side, this is kind of what I do with Candace, my wife, is we'll do this work together, and we'll create scents and everything. Like, she's one who created Last Cast, which is the coconut acai, vanilla, and sugar. She created one, which is Polly's, Lost Creek, and Nightfall, my 3 cents that made a 1 anniversary scent. And she really loves to do it with me. And so I think that kind of helps us a little bit, because we're so busy all the time creating and running and doing orders and stuff like that with 6 kids too. So it's hard to find that time for yourself. So
Oh yeah.
Jason, yeah, he's just saying thank you.
Oh yeah. Dude, I totally envy that. I would absolutely love to. I'm going to retire at some point, so I'm sure I have to find something to do.
Well, it's not only that, it's like the craftsmanship, because everyone can buy those tools, but it's how do you use those tools in a way that you create something like this? You know what I mean? Like, where he created an epoxy button along with that, found the right stuff that will keep this waterproof so it doesn't fall apart. A lot of that stuff. It's really impressive. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming, Andy. I know
yes, sir.
We're here for about an hour and a half. So does anyone have any other questions for Andy with beard related or mental health related, or just anything in general? He has a plethora of knowledge pretty much on everything. Appreciate it, Casey. She really is. I've lucked out with her. So if not, Andy, I appreciate you for coming on.
I appreciate you, my man.
We're definitely going to have you on again. And everyone, appreciate you joining us, and have a great week. And remember, Oiled Up 21 will save you buy one, get one free on all oils this week, or this tomorrow night. So, all right. See you guys.